Welcome, my name is Andreas Patikis and I'm the founder of the Grey Cotswolds, where we offer unique courses and retreats around stress and well-being, anger management, parenting and sports performance for a healthier mind and body. Our venues are set in the beautiful and relaxing Cotswolds countryside with luxurious private dining and facilities. Our specialist team have vast knowledge and experience with beneficial therapies and advice, all in one place, to help with any challenges and empower you for life. Discover a new way of living through our podcasts and prepare to enter a world that is not black and white. Let us accept the colours in between. Welcome to the Grey Cotswolds. So, hi everyone. Today I've got Morven with me. We're going to be... Hello. We're going to be discovering art therapy. So, Morven, tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, well, I've got several qualifications, and I think they all kind of help. They all kind of help to oil the wheels of being a psychotherapist. But I'm a qualified person-centered counsellor, and I'm also an EMDR practitioner, and I'm also an art therapist as well. But because I think art therapy really was my biggest, deepest, broadest training in working with children and teenagers and adults in personality disorder in the NHS. And so that was really taking art therapy on a wide stretch across the full age range that we go through in life as we kind of develop from childhood into being a full-blown adult, as it were. Yeah.
So art therapy, and it sounds like you've got a broad range, and you know, art therapy is an interesting one. For people out there, our listeners, tell us more about art therapy. What is it? Who does it benefit? What happens?
Well, absolutely. Art therapy, it's a bit like it brings in a third party. So if we take just therapy on its own, that is between the counsellor or the psychotherapist and the client. But with art therapy, you've got the therapist, the client, and the artwork as well. And what the artwork does in that relationship between the therapist and the client, the artwork is going to serve as a kind of a memory base and a place to return to for reference and further exploration right the way through that relationship and right the way through that therapeutic endeavour. So the client usually is the creator of the art, but of course the client comes in to the start of this psychotherapeutic relationship with a problem, and that problem could be obsessive compulsive disorder. It could be, for example, not being able to throw things out. So perhaps living in a house that is incredibly excessively cluttered. It could be relational issues like feeling too shy to speak in public. It could be post-traumatic stress. And it could be just feeling very, very blocked, and that there is a need for some form of understanding what to do next in life, because there's a sense of being lost or there's a sense of being stuck. And perhaps that's a very important area for art therapy, because talking about that kind of problem can just feel like empty words. But when you've got some clay, so you're working in 3 dimensions, when you've got a page in front of you with any kind of materials you might want to use, your therapist can just invite you to begin to make marks. The therapist is there to enable a sense of safety with you as the creator. And is there to witness how you are, just like in any other counselling or therapeutic relationship. But also, what's noted in art therapy is that there is a therapeutic progression as the artworks get made. Because what happens in the relationship is that more and more things from the unconscious mind begin to come into awareness. Mm-hmm. So if you're feeling lost and you're questioning what looks like maybe a successful life, maybe you're a high-flying business person, or maybe you're just in a relationship but it's a stalemate time and you don't even know what you're doing anymore. It's like, in having the creative space to use art materials in a supportive space, you can at least fully get into that questioning and just allow yourself to make images. If I could give you an example of image making of, this isn't a client of mine. What I do is I don't relate actual client histories. I relate because it's important that it's a confidential situation. I can't relate an entire client history, but I can relate patches of client history. So yeah, there is a gentleman who was in a crisis in his marriage because suddenly he found that he was getting very violent. Not domestic violence exactly, but he was slamming doors and he was thumping walls, and he was frightening his wife.
So a very angry man.
A very angry man indeed. And he knew that he wasn't really angry at his wife, not at the nub of it, not at the core of it, but he just couldn't figure out what was going on. And this kind of coloured everything. So his job felt flat. He found the kids annoying. And he found all his relationships felt very, very pasty and superficial. And so with beginning to use the materials, you see what happens is something that isn't necessarily obvious when you make art, is that he started to use clay, right? He started to use his hands. And the thing is that when you start to use your body in making an object in a room with a therapist, there's a lot more you're communicating other than just words, yeah? Mm-hmm. And so he started to make these clay figures, and he started to understand much, much more, because what came out of his unconscious mind was information. And the information was that he was starting to make figures of himself when he was a boy.
Right.
And what came out was something that he was very, very deeply ashamed of. And like, as I speak about it, I feel quite moved, because
I can see you're getting emotional.
Yeah, because it's just the courage that he had to be there in that process, and through being there with his therapist, he felt safe enough to be with the materials, and he was making these different figures of himself as a boy, and then he realized how helpless he was in his family when he was growing up, because he was bullied by an elder sister, and he never really wanted anyone to know that. And when he did tell anyone that, they didn't believe him, because they thought, oh, girls don't do that, we don't, it's like rubbish, But apparently it was a problem, and the parents had not addressed it. This is something that in a functional family, the parents are curious and they check that out and they address things like that. But in his family, his parents weren't like that. So he was unprotected from this bullying. And so gradually he was able to give a voice to this and move out of the shame. And then it was strange because he wasn't really, it's like, I suppose, I mean, sometimes we do think that men aren't very verbal with their feelings, you know, but it's just that with the materials, he felt very free.
Well, first of all, what a moving story, and thank you for sharing that. And I'm thinking, you know, this man, had he not had art therapy, and I don't know him or his experience, but it doesn't sound like he would have maybe spoken to a friend or maybe even to a therapist about this. It sounded like it was deeply buried somewhere, if this is coming out in his unconscious mind with the clay. So that's fascinating that it happens that way while he's just there, feeling safe, feeling supported because you're there, and it coming to the surface for him. Coming to the surface, and then, you know, gradually being able to have the loneliness that you felt as a boy being acknowledged. And other things as well, you know, like he was pretty tough as a boy too. Well, it's the tough ones that, you know, keep it all in because, you know, it's weak to, you know, talk about it and show our weakness. I say that in a way, you know, and there's more understanding and awareness around it now, but there's still an awful lot of stigmatized thoughts, cultures, masculinity that all comes into it. And masculinity. It sounds like, you know, as an angry person, art therapy, and that's what you're going to be bringing to our anger management course. Yes, I'll definitely be bringing that. Because there's always a story, there's always a situation behind how come this got cooked up. Because no angry person decides, oh, I want to be an angry person. I've always wanted to be like this, you know, and of course they don't want to be like that. They feel trapped and they are needing to process this feeling. And what's true is that it's a journey, but with the right therapist, with the right environment, you can really get through this, and you can end up developing a phenomenal amount of compassion for yourself. And that's really important. Compassion is a word we're hearing more of, being kind to yourself. You know, it's things we're hearing more of, which is great. And the anger management course that we'll be doing, it's going to be an intense course, but we're not going to skip around subjects. We're there. Going to be in a safe environment for everyone where they're going to be able to explore, gain awareness, and just see maybe what comes to the surface for them to start, you know, moving more forward in their life, I suppose, rather than being stuck potentially where they've been through childhood experiences. Sure thing. And sometimes we get angry because the people around us when we're growing up were just angry people as well, you know. And so we don't quite know, for some reason, that sort of stays with us, and especially in closer relationships, we tend to play it out. But it's still not something that you might have consciously chosen. But, you know, I'm actually quite fond of anger as a feeling. I think it's a really feisty feeling, and in a way, it's very honest and out there. Well, we need to be angry. It's a feeling, and it's not one, I suppose, to be hidden, because then that causes problems, doesn't it? As we know, if we suppress the anger, it's going to come out in some way or other, isn't it? So it certainly is. It is part of our makeup, and I wish we had more time to go through a whole range of things. It's been really interesting, and thank you for sharing that emotional story as well about your client. A couple of things that I want to ask everyone before they leave. What do you do to relax yourself?
Oh, I love going to the cinema. I love movies, and I love of course, nature, but also I love making art. I love making stuff. I love making my own art, and I especially love really colourful pieces. And also with younger relatives that I have, I love to do art making with the kids.
Nice.
Because they're always full of ideas and fresh thinking. And so if I have any new materials, we have great fun with their ideas and stuff like that, definitely, yeah.
And is there any tip you could give to anyone with what they could do today for their stress and well-being?
Well, I think doodling is a great thing.
Okay.
We're all everybody says, I'm so busy. But you know what? Rather than looking at your phone and reading a load of junk that you don't really need to read right now, you can read it, in 3 or 4 hours' time. You can just sit and do a bit of doodling. You just grab a pen, grab a bit of paper, an envelope, anything you like, and just doodle. And if you doodle around a bit, you can doodle not just with your dominant hand, you can doodle with the other hand.
Okay.
And just enjoy the line. Just enjoy taking the line for a walk.
I'm imagining that now. I'm going to try it and see what happens.
Yeah. Sometimes it's funny to see how the lines converge and then see what it's beginning to look like. But it's just play. And that's another aspect of art therapy. It is definitely a form of play. And, play is what keeps us fresh. Play is what keeps us kind of renewing ourselves,
Sounds good. Thank you for joining us today. It's
Sure.
been really interesting. So, this is Andreas Patikis, your fellow traveller on life's journey, signing out. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you have any thoughts, feelings or reflections on today's podcast, please leave them on the comments section on our website or social media channels. You can find more episodes and information at www.thegreycotswolds.co.uk. This is Andreas Patikis, your fellow traveller on life's journey, signing off.